Amen. Lord, I hope you hear that. We thank you for what you have done, for what you are doing, and for what you will do. We thank you. Thank you, choir. Thank you, brother, sister Bowen. Amen. Thank you, worship band. Thank you, ushers, for being at attention while we worship. Thank you, Reverend Paulette, for reading out of our first book of the Bible, Genesis, as we continue to consider the life of Noah. We find ourselves now in chapter 6, verses 11 through 13 primarily. And I want to ask you a question. Are you waiting for the other shoe to drop? Somebody here today, I would dare say, since I get my messages from the Lord, that there's somebody in this room or on our social media platforms who needs to hear this word today. I hope it's portable so that you can carry it to others who need it as well. Tomorrow is July 4th. America will be celebrating the adoption of the 1776 Declaration of Independence, which announced the American colonies' separation from Great Britain. They asserted in that document, that revered document, that all men are created equal, except for African men in America. This year, we are celebrating 246 years of the Declaration. But it is noticeable for me that American legal slavery lasted that same length of time. 1619 to 1865, 246 years also. The same number of years that we have acknowledged and honored the Declaration of Independence, the African in America was enslaved. 246 years. And both of these events, the Declaration and the abolition of legal slavery, offered some kind of freedom. But what was next? Freedom for all was a mirage, an optical illusion. And today, someone is looking at her life, his life, the world, and asking the question, what's next? The vast majority of Americans are not happy with the present state of the United States, according to a very recent poll. We live in a time when there is a sense of doom looming and people feel captured by all of the stuff that's happening in our country and in our world. COVID still reigns. High food, gas costs, supply chain issues, wars and rumors of wars, climate and environmental issues, polarized politics, racial issues, hate, healthcare challenges, social discord, distrust, and a growing epidemic and crisis of violence. And then add to that, for some of you who are listening, a future emptying diagnosis of an illness. Or you are living with something that's just chronic that will continue and continue that affects you and or your loved ones. Mental illness, irrespective of your age, little fulfillment in your personal life. Some who are still under the weight of incapacitating loneliness that still hangs over from when we were locked down under COVID. Some are challenged by their families, their friends, and just relationships in general. Too much. Some are wondering, what will happen next? Some people live, I know some, waiting for the other shoe to drop. A saying originating in the tenements of New York City in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when apartments were built on top of one another. It was common to hear your upstairs neighbor at the end of the day take a rest, sit down, and would take off a shoe and drop it. Those underneath presumed there was another shoe, and they waited for the other shoe to drop. And this idiom, this shorthand phrase, waiting for the other shoe to drop, has been captured in our culture, where it stands now for something that you believe is coming. Something that seemingly is inevitable, something that is anticipated, something that is unavoidable, and commonly it is something you are dreading will come. Are you waiting for your other shoe to drop? Noah may have been. God saw violence on the earth, the record says here. The Hebrew word for violence is broader and more comprehensive than our limited English word. For in the Hebrew understanding of violence, it was not only what we would call brute force attacks or injustice or oppression or cruelty. It also included physical, emotional, psychological violence on a person or a group. It also included depriving someone, misusing someone, rights being trampled on, the rights of others being violated, like our voting rights. God looked out and saw that kind of violence before him, and he announced that it was everywhere. Everybody, self-inflicted and self-destroying. Everything he saw was ruined. Everything he looked at was ruined. All of the people were disobedient to him. And their violence was so impactful that it contaminated even the climate. Even the environment. Is that familiar to anybody? Even the animals. Because the Old Testament teaches that sin, human sin, can contaminate all that is in relationship with it. We who are human put our hands on stuff and we can just mess up stuff that we touch. God had been patient. God had been long suffering, but the violence had gotten God's attention. So what was the next thing? And God said he was going to drop the other shoe, destroy all flesh and the land because of humanity's violence. This was the first time we see God speaking directly to Noah. And Noah has not yet spoken to God. And so when God says this to Noah, does Noah now have anxious anticipation of what's to come? Is he now wondering at the end of a sentence which ends with a period, what's next? When God says he's going to do something, God does that. And at this point in the story, Noah does not yet know he is exempt. So Noah hears God's going to destroy every living creature and all of the land, and he must be wondering, and what does this mean for me? He waits for the other shoe to drop. So what must he do? Same question to you. While you're anticipating whatever it is you're anticipating is around the corner, whatever you are anticipating will be happening in your life, what are you going to do? I suggest that the first thing you need to do is to lighten up. Because the shoe is loaded heavy. Just lighten up somebody. Somebody in here, you're looking at whatever is down the road, what you got to face tomorrow, what you got to face the next week, what you got to face the next month, next year. You're already down the road. Lighten up. Noah knew the people had already dropped the first shoe. And they did it to themselves. What did Noah think, knowing God would drop the other loaded heavy shoe? But he did not know when God would do it. You see, Proverbs says people's own foolishness ruins their lives, but in their minds they blame God. Why God let this happen to me? But people's foolishness ruin their own life. I'm talking to somebody in the house today. Your own foolishness has gotten you in this place where you're worried about the other shoe dropping. What was Noah's self-assessment? God had not told Noah yet what he thought of him. Remember last time we preached, Noah was told, or God indicated that Noah was righteous, that Noah was blameless, and he was favored. Noah did not know that yet. So what is his own self-assessment? Does he see his contribution or involvement in that broad understanding of violence? Was he doing something in his life that could be considered violence? You do know that violence can even be verbal, don't you? My work in domestic violence helped me to understand that it's not just physical or emotional. You can commit domestic violence by how you speak. So don't think just because you didn't take up your hand and hit somebody that you are not violent. What did Noah think about his family, his friends, and being destroyed himself? That's what God had said. He had not yet known that he was exempt from it. Did he have thoughts about what that would look like, what that would happen? How will God do the destruction? When would God do the destruction? The best he could do was to manage his life and his response and lighten up his load. The shoe's gonna drop. What's he gonna do during the meantime? Is he going to be fearful? Is he going to wait and worry? Or wait and work on himself? While you're sitting, waiting, crying, stressing about the other shoe that you think will drop in your life, won't you do something with yourself? Joel Beek says in his book, Overcoming the World, he tells this story. He says a man lived on a mountaintop and he needed someone to take his daughter up and down the mountain every day for school. He interviewed several candidates to be the accompanying person, and he asked them this question: how close can you come to the edge of the mountain without going over? First one said, I can come within 12 inches and not go over the edge. The second said, I can come within 6 inches of the edge. The third boasted and said, oh, I'll come within an inch. The fourth said, I don't know, because I'll be hugging the other side. And I'll stay away as far from the edge as I can. That one got the job. God asks his people not to get as close to sin as they can, but to stay away from it as far as they can. And part of the violence, part of what happens in our lives is that we contribute to it ourselves, and even the stress of what we expect is self-imposed. That nobody told you to worry about this or worry about that. You figured out somehow my assignment today is to worry about that. Our own faulty thinking sabotages our joy because we are too focused on the other shoe dropping. God brings joy in our lives. We don't do like the young folk, the children used to sing, count your blessings, name them one by one, because we are so focused on the thing we are anticipating, what we are expecting to come, and we're so focused on that that we don't see the joy that God is giving us in the moment. So lift and lighten your worry load. Change your mood, change your attitude, be less gloomy. Be more cheerful, because Proverbs says a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. Lighten up and stop stressing about what you really can't control anyway. Noah was not able to do anything to God about what God decided to do because the problem had already taken place. The first shoe had dropped, and now it was a matter of the next shoe. And as you wait, examine yourself as to how you're living. Turn your life and your living to God. if you're not already there. And then live the remainder of what you have pleasingly to God. During the meantime, lighten up. The shoe is loaded real heavy. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then I suggest you tighten up. The shoe's loose. I suggest you tighten up your life. You live in such a way that you become more effective in how you live. By loosening the grip of whatever it is that is worrying you. Whatever is worrying you, loosen the grip of that. Don't give that control. Worrying about what's next. Some people are still worrying about the pandemic's new normal. Don't own the other shoe. Your situation may not be as tight or as capturing as you might think. You're looking at that other shoe, worried, and you're stressed and you're tight, and it hadn't even shown up. You better listen to Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. Somebody in here, you're already down the road. God might choose to intervene, right? He might even wait until the day of to intervene, but you're already there. You see, in case you don't know it, you who are the people of God, we have not been guaranteed to have a trouble-free life. And science tells us that those of us who live in a state of constant fear and worry impact the health of our lives in a lot of different ways. I wish you could have seen the study I read about that. All of the things that go on in our lives that were listed that comes from us fearing and worrying about what's about to happen. And Isaiah says these words to encourage you and me. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Tighten up your life. The shoe's not as tight as you think. Story is told of a woman whose little girl was throwing a temper tantrum as the two went up and down the aisles of a grocery store. It was a busy store, and the toddler sat in the cart, screaming and flailing around. You know how they would do, they embarrass you. You let them do it at home, they don't know the difference when they get out of home. You let them show out at home, they get out in public and show out on you there. That happens around the church. And as she continued to shop, she could be heard calmly muttering to herself, "Don't yell, Susie. Calm down, Susie. Don't get excited, Susie." And the woman passed by, commended her, saying, "You are certainly doing a great job trying to calm down your little girl." She looked at her, "My little girl? Lady, I'm Susie. I'm trying to calm myself down." When things get crazy, sometimes the best we can do is just calm ourselves down. That's why Paul said to the church at Thessalonica, now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times in every way. The Lord be with you. That's why Peter said, cast all of your anxiety on the Lord because the Lord cares. You waiting for that other shoe to drop? Tighten up. The shoe is really looser than you think. Lastly, you waiting? Here's a good one for you. Brighten up. The shoe's about to land. And do it before the shoe lands. I want to tell somebody, never be afraid to trust a known future or an unknown future to a known God. You want some freedom today as you enter 4th of July? You want some freedom in your life? Stop letting worry steal your joy. Because what you focus on attracts in your life. If you focus on the negative, that's what you're going to get in your life. And you'll live in dread and fear and worry. And that's no way to live, my friends. That is no way to live. Limit your exposure to the news and social media. Turn off the alerts to your phone. All of that easily steals your joy and causing you to worry. You need to take a break from this sometimes. I know it feels like it's attached, but when God created you, there was no cell phone attached. All you need to do is glow. Figuratively, use a Sharpie highlighter on your worry to brighten up your life. Find your Sharpie. Don't get a dark color, get a high color. So when you're looking at that stuff that's worrying you, you mark it up. And what I like about the Sharpie highlighter is that it's a permanent markup. So whatever it is I'm worrying about today, I'm going to sharpen it up and brighten up my life. Let this stuff worry me. The shoe might drop, deacon might drop. But during the meantime, I'm going to glow. During the meantime, I'm going to glow. And the way you glow is that you focus and fix your eyes on Jesus. Matthew says it this way in 6:34. Give your entire attention to what God is doing right now. And don't get worked up about what may or may not happen tomorrow. God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. You just need to choose to keep your hope and your trust in the Lord. Can't tell you how to choose. I just know how to choose for myself. Take heart, Jesus said to us. That's what we got to keep in mind. Because in the end, victory is his. Yes, sir. We don't have to fear the other shoe that may drop because Jesus' death and resurrection guarantees our eventual place before the throne in heaven, and God is right there. His victory is our confidence that whatever he allows to come into our lives, that we can handle it. So yeah, we ought to say thank you. Yeah, we ought to say praise the Lord for peaceful days, knowing that they may not be that way all the time, but this day is the day that the Lord has made. This day, no matter what comes, I will rejoice and be glad in this day. I'm going to choose joy over my worry. That's why I like Bobby McFerrin's song. 1988, Bobby McFerrin had a song that went to the top chart. He says, in every life we have some trouble, but when you work it, when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry. Be happy. And all you got to do is join in singing with the Hawkins singing, oh, happy day when Jesus washed my sins away. Oh, happy day. He taught me how to watch, fight, and pray. Somebody in here today, you need to be watching. You need to be fighting. You need to be praying. And no matter what happens to you that day, know that God has customized that day for you. This is a day that God made. This is a day that God allowed to happen. This circumstance God allowed to happen. You just let that other shoe drop. But during the meantime, you better tighten up. You better lighten up. You better brighten up, because God still is in charge. Did I tell you that? Do you really know that? God still is in charge. God will make a way out of no way. God will give you peace that passes all understanding. God will level the valleys in your life. He'll take you on the mountain. He'll let you shout hallelujah. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.